refugee camp is probably one of the most stressful situation anyone could go through. First, you have to escape your own country, to get an asylum from another country nearby your country. And even in that neighbor country who is willing to allow you to come and stay in a camp, but they're not that welcoming of you. Because first of all, you are illegal immigrant per se. So the red carpet was not put out. Let's put it that way. So we were put in this barbed wire fence community that's built out of bamboo and leaves and things like that. And they said, okay, you got to build where you need to stay. So you can't leave the gate, and there's curfews. Your lantern has to be off, at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and you can't really venturing around. It's not really. It's almost like a little prison. And they would bring you food because they obligated to feed you there. So the first camp was not so bad because we know the people there. It's not too far from my hometown. It's not too far from the border where we crossed. Some of our relatives still can come and visit us. In fact, some of the people who work there know our family, so it wasn't so bad. Once we got the sponsorship, we had to go to a second camp, which is toward southern Thailand. And that camp is rough. That camp actually had Laotian, Vietnamese, and Cambodian living in one camp. And it's a little bit more stricter. You will get a bucket of water a day, a small bucket of water. That's all you get. Bathe and bath and drink and whatever a day. So the truck will come and you'll get each family will go in there with their own bucket and you get that water. You can't have open fire, so they give you 3 meals a day. 2 meals a day, lunch and dinner. That's a very harsh environment to live in. And you live in a barrack. It's 3 walls facing, is a barrack facing in the center. So there's no privacy. You literally, your family is sleeping next to the other family in the mosquito nets and things like that. So the stress level is very, very high for all family, not just my family. We always, the way to escape the condition is always dreaming of the next country, like for us it's dreaming of when we're going to get to America and how things can be different. When my family came, we have a sponsor a church that sponsors us in Oakland, California, and we have no clue where that is. All we know is we're going to America. So I remember when I was in the second refugee camp, that 3 months is to learn about who are the Americans, right? I remember the American that came to my house when I was little, blonde hair, tall, white folks, right? I never knew that America had different ethnicity. My perception of America is all white people, Well, to my surprise, when I got picked up from San Francisco International Airport at night to come to our house in Oakland, California, I couldn't wait to see the American, even though in the middle of the night, right? So they said, go to sleep, tomorrow you can see the American. I got up pretty early. I want to see the American kids when they go to school. I went out to my front door, front porch, standing there and looking at the American. And they're like, who are these people? Because every single person who passed my house to go to school, they were not white. They're black. And I never seen a black person in my life. I'm like, what country are we in? we came to the wrong country. This is not the America I know from the film, right? So that's a culture shock for me. Didn't speak a word of English. Didn't understand exactly where we were. You know, the first 2 years for my parents and my family lived in Oakland, California, in predominantly African American community. They were great people that, you know, like Mr. Hain across the street, who trying to teach us English and even show us around and use the library and stuff like that. That make us feel good. But then there's other people who keep telling us, like, go back home, you Cambodian. Well, we're not Cambodian, we're Laotian, you know, so things like that. We did face some discrimination because we look different. You know, we look like a refugee. We didn't speak any word of English. We couldn't communicate with the people who live around us. That's probably the most difficult part for my parents, is to, because my family is not just my family, but the culture about the Laotian culture is very family oriented, you know, just like many other cultures, right? So to know that you might not see your kid again, or the possibility of you not ever going to see, you know, your sibling, for myself, it's very, very tough. You know, two of my brothers who left early in the 70s, they end up in France, and this majority of my family end up here in the United States, and then we have one brother end up in Australia with his own family, wife and kids. So it's not like today. The communication back then is a little bit more difficult. You actually have to write letter and mail it, not like, you know, sending people email or FaceTime them. So that was very, very difficult in the early 80s for my parents to have the thought of the possibility of never going to see my kid again. And in fact, unfortunately, they didn't. This whole time, I never felt like I really belong here. I didn't want to be here. It's a foreign country to me. I hated America when I first came, as much as America hated having me here. You know, I remember people telling me, go home, you Cambodian. Even though I'm not Cambodian, I know who I am. I didn't feel like I belong here. I didn't feel I want to be here. I didn't speak the language. I didn't know the culture. And I pretty much could speak for a lot of refugees who feel that way. I didn't really feel like I wanted to be here until I graduated from high school. That's when my language ability was a little bit better. I could communicate, I could have goal, I set goal. You know, I could see the benefit of me being here. Not too long after I graduated from high school, I remember I had to register you had to register to be drafted or join the army or join the military. And I was like, you know, even though I've been here a while, that old memory of the American is your enemy, you know, that I received as a child kicked in. And I was a little hesitant a little bit, but I'm glad I did. You know, I'm beginning to slowly taking the pride of becoming part of this community. And I think the biggest step I took, and my family took, to become American was when we decided to naturalize ourselves to become U.S. citizens. And that was a big step. You know, it's a very emotional step. I think the main accomplishment for us was to get higher education. So, like I mentioned, that I didn't have both of my parents by the time I graduated from high school. So when the welfare was cut and I had to support myself, the first thing I did was get a full-time job as a dental assistant. And you know, I worked full-time and I went to school part-time, and eventually I worked myself and supported myself through college. And you know, I got a degree in sociology. And it's been over a decade now that I've been working, you know, with that degree, doing what I do today.